Bet you didn't expect to see me back so soon. This is Mr. Cinema Junkie one more time. And this time I have a contest entry. Second one in one day. I'm on a roll. Two in a row. Woo! This one is for a new channel from an old friend. Um, uh, Quite a few of you are familiar with the channel Columbus Dinner. Well, he has moved to another channel, has a new channel up, brand new, and it's live from the grave. I will put the link below. Definitely go check out the new channel and sub him. If you're sub to him under Columbus Dinner, you're definitely going to want to resub him under Live from the Grave. If you haven't ever checked out his channel, you're in store for some great stuff. Great collections, great horror aficionado, very cool guy. Definitely check out the channel. Like I said, I'll put the new link will be below. So go over there, sub him, and friend him. In his contest, he asked, what are our favorite, which parts were our favorite of the following four franchises aside from the originals? And he gave us, to work with, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, and Friday the 13th. So aside from the original ones, because most people would usually pick the first one as being their favorite, he wants the ones besides the original. So I'm going to leave the hardest one for last. And I'm going to go start with Nightmare on Elm Street first. I'm not a big fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. That's just basic. And of course, the first one is the only one that I really like out of the franchise because as the movie went on, it just became a whole big thing that I really couldn't get into for whatever reason. I thought it was too campy, too corny, too. You know, it's kind of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. The more lines they gave him, the more intolerable he became. I liked him better when he didn't say much. So I feel the same way about Freddy Krueger. So as far as Nightmare on Elm Street goes, the only other one I like besides Part 1 would be Part 2 because he was just starting to turn into that sarcastic, one-liner spewing killer of your dreams. Um, I almost said New Nightmare, but as much as I like the concept of the movie, I don't know, it just kind of like it kind of steered away from Nightmare on Elm Street, the whole, bringing it into reality kind of thing. Although I did like that Freddy a lot better because he wasn't really such a wise ass like he was in the other movies. So for Nightmare on Elm Street, I'll definitely go with Part 2 as being my favorite aside from the original. Next up, out of the Scream franchise, uh, again, I'd have to go with Part 2 only because I think after Part 3, it got a little contrived as to who the killer was, who was wearing that ghost face mask at that time. Part 2 was kind of a stretch, but not that much of a stretch. It was almost believable. Uh, of course, you had the movie geek who kept like telling all the rules, and all the rules have changed now in the sequel, and that's all well and good. But my thing with the Scream movies is that the first one came out, and it was like, Drew Barrymore made a little deal in the beginning of it, and I remember when I worked at the video store, that's when that movie came out, and people were pissed off that she was only in there for a little while. But it seemed to open up the floodgates of all these other all these other actors who wanted to make little cameo appearances in the sequels, and it's just like they were like jam packing as many people as they could in there. Directors like Wes Craven was making little appearances in there and ribbing it and lampooning themselves, and I was just kind of like, all right, it's kind of losing its focus a little bit. So before that thing became this tidal wave of all these like big names getting killed off early on in there, I'd have to go with Part 2 because it was still, I still found it very interesting. I'm not even in a rush to see Part 4 to tell you the truth. So I'll go with Scream 2 on as far as my other favorite aside from the original. Halloween. Can you guess? Okay, you give up. Aside from the original, I'm gonna say Part 3. Now, I know a lot of people don't like part three. A lot of people say it had nothing to do with the series, the franchise, and that's probably why I like it. Because after part four, it started to get a tad ridiculous. When it started reaching six and seven, it was almost like they were trying to expect us to forget that four and five ever happened, and I had a problem with that. Um, but as far as part three was concerned, it was the only other original movie in the series. Part one was the original, and then part three, which had nothing to do with the series, it became an original as well. Only only associated by name, Halloween 3. I think that was its big mistake, was trying to like ride the fringe of the Halloween franchise. Even though I know that the plan was to make different movies. Halloween 2 wasn't supposed to have anything to do with Michael Myers, neither was 3, 4, and 5 as it went on. It was going to be different stories based around the Halloween holidays, but Michael Myers was such a big hit, they stuck with that. But they took a chance with part 3, and I think they should have named it something else, really. But if you watch it and don't think about the fact that it's named Halloween 3, it's an excellent movie. I like it a lot. So, as far as Halloween is concerned, Halloween 3 is the one that I like aside from the original. Um, but in company, in retrospect, 2 and 4 have to go in there as well. So, which brings me to Friday the 13th. Now, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Because Friday the 13th Part 1 is definitely, in my book, a total original. Didn't know to the very end that, it was a lady killing everybody. My young mind thought that, of course, that it was a guy killing everybody. So that was totally original. So then when the second one rolled around, was kind of surprised that her son was killing everybody who was supposed to be dead in the first one. Um, so that's kind of a tough call because 2 was original because they switched killers, but it still stayed in the storyline. But I also like part 4 because 4 kind of was supposed to have brought that to a close, which it did not. But I thought they pulled out all the stops on it, and Crispin Glover was just great in that movie. His dancing skills are unequaled. Um, and then part 3, of course, that's when he first uses the legendary hockey mask that became his calling card all the way up until Jason X and Jason versus Freddy, and that's when you first get introduced to the hockey mask. So that's a real tough one. Uh, but I guess if I have to pick one of those, I'm gonna have to go with part 3. Part 3, because part 3 is a very fond memory for me. Part 3 I saw in the theater when it was in 3D. It was in Super 3D, they called it. And this was during an era when 3D movies weren't coming out every 2 days. 3D movies were a rare treat back then. And it reminds me of better times. When people actually tried to put out a good product and throw some 3D on it for effect rather than put out a 3D movie and hope that the movie was okay. I mean, Friday the 13th franchises are not great movies, not to everybody, but to us horror fans, they're pretty awesome. And now it seems like they're just doing 3D just because they can, because it's become easier to do, I guess. Um, but this reminded me, part 3 really reminded me of a happier time, I guess, when it was a special thing to see a movie in 3D. And plus, like I said, it's the introduction to the ever famous hockey mask. Now, every Halloween, you can't go to a store without seeing some cheap rendition of a hockey mask, glow in the dark, or whatever, what have you. All because of that. It all became famous because of that. So, yeah, I'll say part 3. I was going to say part 4 just because, Tom Savini got to put his baby to bed. He did the effects on the first one. He got to do the effects on the last one, and I thought that was really cool and had some really great special effects in it and stuff. But, nah, no. Snap decision. I'm going to go with 3 on that. So those are my favorites. Just to recap, Halloween would be Part 3, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Scream Part 2, and Friday the 13th would be Part 3. Um, as far as Friday the 13th is concerned, as far as collections are concerned, I only need the first 4 movies to be truly happy. After that, it's touch and go. I don't really need them that bad. I do own Jason X, and that's fine. I do enjoy that bit of campy nostalgia there. I thought it was cool. But yeah, I only need the first 4, and I know they have a 4 disc collection that I plan on getting. So yeah, that's it. So again, check the link below. Live from the grave, and definitely good luck to everybody who enters this contest, because these are some incredible, incredible prizes, and it's one winner. So somebody's going to be an extremely happy camper. Let me tell you. So thanks again. Take care. Thanks for the opportunity to enter this awesome, awesome contest. And good luck to everyone. Later.